in interesting times. Today's stories. City of Toronto launches the VaxTO campaign. Regions in Quebec move to the orange zone as of May 31. Quebec offers a drive-thru vaccination in Montreal. BC launches restart plan to safely bring people back together. Millions in Australia's second city ordered into snap COVID lockdown. Syrians in regimen-controlled areas celebrate re-election of Bashar Al-Assad. UN personnel peacekeepers leave Goma as new eruption of DR Congo volcano feared. Hello everyone, you're watching Eagle News Canada. I'm Tiffany Elisasis reporting from Calgary, Alberta, bringing you stories from across the globe. To help speed up the process of people receiving the COVID-19 vaccination in Toronto, the city launches the VaxTO campaign. What is this campaign and how can it help? Eagle News correspondent Cherry Rico-Lizado tells us more.
Toronto Mayor John Tory announced Wednesday that the city is launching VaxTO, a campaign to further vaccination efforts across the city.
Today, the city is launching VaxTO, which is a new campaign to connect residents with COVID-19 vaccination appointments and information so that we can push our vaccination rates up above 70% and, frankly, as high as possible. You know, we've now done 65%. That's a commendable level to reach in a relatively short period of time, but that still leaves 35% who have not yet been vaccinated. And to push the numbers higher will be crucial in our progressing through the province's roadmap to reopening, which will rely quite heavily on vaccination levels, though not exclusively on that.
According to the City of Toronto, this campaign will use various means of communication, such as text, emails, voice broadcasts, telephone town halls, and targeted multilingual social media to inform people on the days, times, and locations where they can be vaccinated. Starting on Wednesday, Toronto residents can text vaccine to 1-833-750-0888 to connect with resources regarding appointment bookings, vaccine information, and upcoming telephone town halls. The VaxTO campaign has 3 phases.
The campaign will be done in 3 phases. The first, which is now underway, encourages all Torontonians, if they haven't already, to book a first dose. The second phase, beginning in mid-June, will target neighbourhoods and communities with low first dose vaccination rates. And the third phase, beginning in July, will continue to target Torontonians who have yet to receive a first dose and support the city's citywide second dose efforts.
Mayor Tory emphasizes the importance of vaccination in reopening the city.
I cannot stress enough, if you, like me, want to get on with reopening as soon as possible, then one of the things you have to do is to get vaccinated, or if you know someone in your close circle who hasn't been, to encourage them to do so. The vaccines will be instrumental to bringing this pandemic to an end. They will bring back normal life. They will help keep you from being infected. They will help keep you from infecting or getting infected your friends and your families and your co-workers.
In Toronto, Cherry Rico-Lizado, Eagle News. We live in interesting times.
Most regions of Quebec in the orange zone as of May 31st. Here is Eagle News correspondent Andre Lajoie with the details.
As a sign that the epidemiological situations continue to improve, the Prime Minister of Quebec, François Legault, today announced several level changes that will come into effect on Monday, May 31st at 12:01 a.m. Thus, the entire region of the Capital National, Laurentides, Lanaudière, Montérégie, and l'Outaouais will go from the maximum alert level red to the alert level of orange. The regions of Bas-Saint-Laurent, Chaudière-Appalaches, and Estrie will also move to the orange level except for a certain specific sector which will remain in the red level. Among the measures in force in the orange zone, let us mention in particular the reopening of restaurants, maximum of 2 people per table, accompanied, if applicable, by their minor children or occupant of the same private residence per table, full-time return to school for secondary 3, 4, and 5 students, a maximum of 100 people in place of worship, with the exceptions of weddings and funerals, which are limited to 25 people. François Legault, Premier of Quebec, was saying that they are aiming for more than 75% of all age groups to be vaccinated. I need your solidarity so that the Quebec continues to win, says the Premier. One of the first objectives of the confinement plan is that most regions have returned to the orange level on May 31st. Thanks to the collaboration of the population, this objective will be achieved. The situation continues to be closely monitored in all regions. In the effort are sustained, other regions or sectors could move to the orange level shortly. Immunizations coverage is also an important factor. This is why I invite people who have not yet made their appointment for their first dose to do so as soon as possible, says Christian Dubé, Minister of Health and Social Services. Reporting from Ottawa, Canada, this is André Lajoie. We live in interesting times.
For those living in Montreal, the drive-thru vaccination is now in full operation. Eagle News correspondent Marjorie Quintos with the details.
Quebec's COVID-19 drive-thru clinic at the Montreal Pierre Elliott Trudeau International Airport is in full operation. About 15 tents are set up across the airport's employee parking lot. A vehicle is required to receive your vaccination, and motorcycles are allowed. 4 people from the same family bubble can receive the vaccine, and each person's arms must be accessible through the car's window. Those with appointments are asked to drive through to one of the tents to undergo a brief evaluation before receiving their shot. The brand of the vaccine to be administered is introduced to the person, and it's up to the person to decide whether he or she agrees to take the vaccine or not. Next is the administration of the vaccine by a registered nurse. The nurse talks about the possible side effects of the vaccine and what to do in case, referring to the pamphlet provided upon entry. The process takes less than 10 minutes. Then, the person must sit for 15 minutes in the car at the parking spot provided. A team of medical professionals goes car to car, checking in on how people are doing before they can drive off. To get an appointment, Montrealers go to quebec.ca webpage. For each appointment made, number of passengers filled and how many people will be vaccinated in the vehicle must be indicated. Upon registration, an email and a text message are received regarding the date, time, and location of the vaccination. 24 hours prior to the appointment, confirmation is again sent by the government via text message and email. To receive the vaccine, a Quebec health card is not mandatory. Any valid government-issued ID is sufficient. In Montreal, Marjorie Quintos, we live in interesting times.
Here's Eagle News correspondent Vanessa Condi with the latest on British Columbia's restart plan to safely bring people back together.
This week, BC government has announced the restart plan starting May 25 for a gradual reopening of activities with the hope of things going back to pre-pandemic times in September. From May 25, as long as 60% of the population have had their first dose, indoor dining and 5 visitors for indoor personal gatherings are allowed. From the earliest of mid-June, where 65% have had their first dose, a maximum of 50 people can gather indoors and BC travel restrictions will be lifted. Mask indoors is still mandatory. Early July, where 70% of the population has had their first dose, the increased capacity for indoor and outdoor gatherings will be allowed and masks will be recommended. Which leads to the 4th stage in early September, where more than 70% will have had their first dose of the vaccine. The plan is that it will return to normal social interactions and an increased capacity of indoor and outdoor gatherings. Masks will also be a personal choice. With a plan of increasing social circles, Dr. Bonnie Henry has mentioned it is what people are comfortable with and is pitched for a BC Hug Day.
So we have to make those decisions ourselves in the next little while. But it is those normal interactions that we're used to. So if your grandparents have been immunized and they're going to be part of your social connections again with your grandkids, yeah, you know each other, you know what the risks are. Now's the time where you can get together, you can hug again. And I'm thinking by the time we get to July, if things continue in the way that we expect, that we'll be able to hug our neighbors again, if they're people who like to be hugged. I mean, we have to understand that not everybody does, but it's one of the things that I'm missing most in this pandemic. And I've been trying to pitch to the Premier that we should have BC Hug Day in July when we get to that point where we can take our masks off and have those closer social interactions that we used to have with people that we're close to, whether that's family or friends.
The hope is by September we will see it go back to the old normal. In Victoria, BC, Vanessa Condi, Eagle News, we live in interesting times.
5 million people in Melbourne were ordered into a snap week-long lockdown Thursday, with officials blaming Australia's sluggish vaccine rollout and hotel quarantine failures for yet another virus outbreak in the country's second biggest city. Facing a cluster of 26 cases linked to the highly infectious Indian strain of COVID-19, authorities issued stay-at-home orders for Melbourne and surrounding Victoria State from midnight.
This lockdown is affecting us. Many of our families and friends can't work, so yeah, it's just very difficult.
Look, I'm from New York originally, so I feel like we've had a really good go of it here in Australia in terms of how many people have gotten sick.
I'm still going to work, so I still got a job, so I'm pretty fortunate, and they're not too bad, to be honest. Like, it's 7 days, so I guess there's less going out, less catching up with friends, but at the same time, it's only 7 days, and we've done it before, so it's just a nice time to relax at home.
It is the fourth time Melbourne has been plunged into lockdown since the pandemic began, including nearly 4 months of harsh restrictions last year. The cluster is believed to have begun with a traveler who returned to Australia from overseas despite a mandatory 14-day quarantine. The latest outbreak was intensified criticism of flawed quarantine facilities and a national vaccine rollout that, according to Acting State Premier James Merlino, is not where it should be. If more people were vaccinated, we might be facing a very different set of circumstances than we are today. But sadly, we are not, he said, pointing blame squarely at the Conservative federal government. Some local residents rushed to get jabbed Thursday, as the state opened up mass vaccination hubs to people aged 40 to 49 for the first time.
So I guess I'm willing to accept a little bit of a slow rollout, but if these things happen more often, then they just have to get more vaccine in the country.
Bashar Al-Assad has been re-elected for a fourth term as president of war-ravaged Syria. Official results showed on Thursday. Despite Western accusations, the polls were neither free nor fair. The controversial vote extending Assad's stranglehold on power was the second since the start of a decade-long civil conflict that has killed more than 388,000 people, displaced millions, and battered the country's infrastructure. The parliamentary speaker announced Thursday that Assad garnered 95.1% of the votes cast, trouncing two virtually unknown challengers. Standing against him were former State Minister Abdullah Salum Abdallah and Mohammed Merhi, a member of the so-called tolerated opposition, long dismissed by exiled opposition leaders as an extension of the regime. On the eve of the election, the US, Britain, France, Germany, and Italy said the polls are neither free nor fair and Syria's fragmented opposition has called it a farce. But few doubted that Assad, a 55-year-old ophthalmologist by training, would be re-elected. In the last multi-candidate poll in 2014, Assad won 88% of the vote. Huge election posters glorifying Assad had mushroomed across the two-thirds of the country under his control in the lead-up to Wednesday's poll. Before the election results were announced, tens of thousands of Syrians gathered Thursday in various cities to celebrate, waving Syrian flags and carrying pictures of Assad, state media reported. The festivities broke out after the election committee, quoted by local TV, said the ballot counting process has been completed in the majority of Syrian provinces. Tens of thousands of people in Tartus province gathered at the city's seafront to celebrate Assad's expected win, according to state news agency Sana. Some danced and beat drums, footage broadcast by Syrian television showed. Thousands of other Syrians rallied in the coastal city of Latakia and Umayyad Square in the capital Damascus, which along with Tartus and Latakia and bastions of the regiment. Celebrations were also underway in Aleppo and Swedia, in Syria's south, where a crowd gathered in front of City Hall, state media said. The election was held Wednesday in government-held areas, and state media showed long queues forming outside polling stations, which remained open 5 hours past the planned closing time. The vote took place amid the lowest levels of violence since the war erupted in 2011, but with the economy in free fall. More than 80% of the population live in poverty, and the Syrian pound has plunged in value against the dollar, causing skyrocketing inflation. Assad's campaign slogan, "Hope Through Work," evoked the colossal reconstruction needed to rebuild the country, requiring billions of dollars in funding. Assad was first elected by referendum in 2000, after the death of his father, Hafez al-Assad, who had ruled Syria for 3 years. The UN Syria envoy, Geir Pedersen, said the polls were held under the auspices of the current constitution and not part of the political transition process called for in the Security Council Resolution 2254 of December 2015. Tens of thousands of people fled the eastern DR Congo city of Goma, choking highways after the local governor warned in a dawn broadcast of a possible new eruption of the volcano Mount Nyiragongo. In a technical note, the volcano's monitors also pointed to a potentially catastrophic scenario, a limnic eruption, that could smother the area with suffocating carbon dioxide. The government said in a team of experts was at the summit of the volcano carrying out a risk assessment. The city, located on the shore of Lake Kivu, has been on edge since Africa's most active volcano erupted on Saturday, leaving 32 people dead. Right now, we can't rule out an eruption, on land or under the lake, which could happen very soon and without warning, said General Constant Ndima, the military governor of North Kivu province. He said an evacuation of part of the city of more than 600,000, among some 2 million in the greater urban area, had been ordered and urged residents to leave calmly. Ndima warning that the situation can change rapidly and is being constantly monitored, said authorities had arranged transport towards Sake around 20 kilometers west of Goma. Traffic was backed up for several kilometers on the road headed west. Tens of thousands fled Goma last weekend after Nyiragongo erupted on Saturday night, although many returned. But strong aftershocks have continued to rattle the city, causing some buildings to collapse and leaving residents fearful. The volcano spewed out 2 rivers of molten rock during the eruption, one of which came to halt on the edge of Goma after obliterating villages in its wake. The UN humanitarian agency, OCHA, said more than 4,500 homes were destroyed, affecting some 20,000 people. Local volcanologists have recorded hundreds of the aftershocks since DR Congo, which sits just a dozen kilometers from Goma, roared back to life. Nadima said the latest data indicates the presence of magma under the urban area of Goma, with an extension under Lake Kivu. Interaction between magma and the lake posed additional risks, including the emission of potentially dangerous gases at the surface, he said. Coming up, NBA issues statement on player-fan interactions after the Westbrook and Young incidents. Eagle News Canada continues after this.
Events happen around us all the time, in our community, in our country, around the world. Events that affect people, move communities, or simply inspire us. Interesting events that people need to know. In these interesting times, we continue to be a competent partner in delivering news about these events. Fast, accurate, balanced. Eagle News, because we live in interesting times.
Innovation, digital disruption, globalization. Startups, micro, small, and medium enterprises, as well as large corporations, all face interesting challenges in the market today. Peek into the world of exciting opportunities and partnerships to drive growth with the latest business news and information. We are open for business. Your weekly dose of entrepreneurial inspiration to update you on the latest developments in the world of business. Get up close and personal with CEOs and thought leaders to help you discover valuable insights, sharpen your instincts for smart decision making with the latest markets and economic trends, disruptive ideas, global innovation, social entrepreneurship, and other leading-edge business ideas. Join the conversations to create a more vibrant environment for entrepreneurship. Catch Open for Business, from vision to action.
Welcome back. You're watching Eagle News Canada. I'm Tiffany Elisastis from Calgary, Alberta. Fans bring excitement to the home team, but fans can also get too carried away with their emotions. Eagle News correspondent Tenny Samagi tells us more on how the NBA responded to the incidents that occurred at Philadelphia's Wells Fargo Arena, New York Madison Square Arena, involving superstars Russell Westbrook and Trae Young.
The beauty of sports, especially during the playoffs, are the fans who electrify their home arena with their energy and excitement. Oftentimes, however, fans can get too carried away, especially with visiting players. In Philadelphia, a Sixers fan threw popcorn at Russell Westbrook, after the Washington Wizards guard left Wednesday's game with an ankle injury. Brody and his teammate Bradley Beal addressed the issue that consequences should be made with fans after Wednesday's incident.
Just like any other setting, I'm all for the fans enjoying the game and having fun. And, it's part of sports. I get it. But there's certain things that cross the line. And any other setting, I know for a fact that fans, they want to come up. A guy went on the street and pour popcorn on my head. You know what happened? A guy want to come up to me, talking about my kids, family on the street, because the response will be different. In these arenas, you got to start protecting the players, man. We'll see what the NBA does, but fortunately, I couldn't get to the stands, but I just don't take that lightly, man. To me, it happens to me a lot of times, and obviously I've learned to kind of look the other way, but to a certain extent, you can't just keep looking the other way. There has to be some penalties or something to put in place where fans can't just come to the games and do and say as they please.
It's disgusting, because us as players, we don't get to protect ourselves. We run in the stands and confront somebody who's disrespecting us. Like, we're here to entertain everyone in this arena. And, granted, maybe one bad apple or whatever the case may be, but that's still not a good look for the city and for the team and for all fans. Like, that's BS, because crazy language spoke to me tonight and my kids are sitting next to me. Yeah. Part of me want to go over there and say, who are you talking to? We can't do that. So we focus on the game. We control. But at the end of the day, we got to protect the players. There's a million cameras in here. There's no way we can't find out who did it. And they should never be able to step into the arena nowhere in the U.S.
Over in New York, a Knicks fan spit over rapper 50 Cent's head, aiming at Atlanta Hawks guard Trae Young. Hawks head coach Nick McMillan weighs in on the incident.
And, unfortunately, I think we're just living in a society where really people just don't have respect anymore. That's in no way should that be allowed or should that happen at a sporting event or really any event where you are coming to watch a game and you do something like that. So, I think New York did what they should have done in that situation, and it's just it's uncalled for and shouldn't happen. I've spoke to Trae about it, and he was just shocked that that happened. And Trae is, the game is still going on. It's really the last possession, of the game, and so his focus, his attention is on the game. But he did see that and was just really surprised that something like that was happening.
The NBA issued a code of conduct for fans after the incidents occurred. For more on the NBA playoffs, tune in to Eagle News for more stories and highlights. In New York, Tenny Sumagi, Eagle News, we live in interesting times.
That's today's Eagle News Canada. Join us again next week as we bring stories that matter to you. Visit our website at eaglenews.net and eaglenewslive.com. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/eaglenews and on Facebook at facebook.com/eaglenews. Thank you for watching. I'm Tiffany Elisassis. We live in interesting times.